There's a certain energy that a woman radiates when she is emotionally secure, and it's unlike anything else. It's not about her looks, her status, or even her words. It's a presence. It's the way she walks into a room, not needing validation, but carrying her own. It's in the way she listens, not to get attention, but because she's genuinely engaged. It's in the way she can love without losing herself, the way she can care deeply without clinging, and the way she can walk away when her value is not recognized without turning bitter. Emotional security is magnetic, and it pulls the right kind of men toward her, not by force, but by frequency. Okay? Men are wired to seek connection, just like women are, but the difference lies in the kind of energy that creates that connection. An emotionally secure woman isn't desperate to be chosen. She's already chosen herself. That choice alone shifts the power dynamic. Instead of trying to convince a man of her worth, she simply knows it. And that self-assured knowing is rare. It's rare because so many of us have been conditioned to believe that love is something we earn, chase, or maintain at all costs. But emotional security breaks that cycle. It says, I'm whole, with or without you. I'd love to share my life with someone aligned with me, but I won't distort myself to make that happen. Now, when a man meets a woman like this, it creates a very different reaction in him. He's intrigued. He feels safe in a different way, not because she'll never leave him, not because she'll bend to his every whim, but because her authenticity leaves no room for games. That security gives him space to rise, not space to hide. It challenges him, but it also inspires him. Most men have encountered emotionally unavailable women or overly anxious ones, and both bring a level of chaos into the connection. But a secure woman, she's grounded. She can be soft without being walked on. She can be open without being reckless. She can be vulnerable without being weak. She sets standards not as ultimatums, but as expressions of self-respect. And that is irresistibly attractive. What many women don't realize is that the chase isn't what makes him stay. The drama isn't what makes him fall. It's her grounded presence, her ability to stay rooted in herself, to not be swayed by temporary highs or ghosted by temporary lows. Emotional security is attractive because it reflects maturity. And maturity, real emotional maturity, is what a man seeking a meaningful connection is drawn to. It doesn't mean perfection. It means accountability. It means when she messes up, she owns it. When she's hurt, she communicates. When she feels unsure, she pauses and responds rather than reacts. Men feel this difference, even if they can't always articulate it. She's the woman who won't text 10 times to get a reply. She won't check his stories for clues. She won't twist herself to be more of what he wants. She'll be herself. Not arrogantly, but calmly, confidently, quietly. And while that may scare off emotionally immature men who thrive on attention or control, it captivates the right man, the man who is emotionally available and seeking something real. Now, there's a flip side to this. Emotional security also means she's not trying to fix him. She's not attracted to potential. She doesn't get addicted to projects. She's attracted to alignment. That's a powerful shift, because emotionally insecure energy often gets drawn to what it can prove, what it can fix, or what it can save. But secure energy doesn't chase trauma. It honors peace. And when she notices red flags, she doesn't justify them. She acknowledges them. She doesn't try to change the man. She trusts that the right man won't need to be changed to meet her needs. What happens next is something you'll hear echoed from every man who's ever found himself falling for a woman with this energy. There's just something about her. That something is emotional security. It's not just confidence, it's clarity. It's not just boundaries, it's compassion. It's not just independence, it's interdependence. The ability to share deeply while maintaining individuality. And it's incredibly rare, which is why when a man meets it, he doesn't want to let it go. The kind of woman who attracts the right man is not the one who's mastered all the rules, but the one who has mastered herself. She doesn't get rattled by silence because she knows her worth isn't tied to his response. She doesn't crumble under pressure because her self-love isn't conditional. She doesn't seek revenge or play games because her dignity speaks louder than any comeback ever could. This emotional maturity becomes a mirror for the man. It invites him to rise, to be accountable, to show up with honesty. And the men who can't meet her there, they simply fall away. The irony is that the more secure a woman becomes, the less she needs a relationship to feel whole. And yet, the more attractive she becomes to partners who are ready to build something real. That's the paradox. Emotional security creates detachment, not from love, but from fear, from neediness, from performing, from needing constant reassurance. It creates a foundation where love is a choice, not a transaction, where presence is a gift, not a demand, and where time spent together is meaningful, not measured in how many texts or gestures or apologies he made. So when you, as a woman, decide to step into emotional security, you're not just changing how you feel, you're changing who you attract. You begin to repel what once looked like love but was actually anxiety. You stop tolerating crumbs because you know you deserve the whole feast. You no longer wait by the phone because you're too busy living a life that lights you up. You stop chasing because you understand that the right person doesn't need to be convinced. They recognize your energy and they show up accordingly. This doesn't mean relationships become perfect, but it does mean they become healthier. Conflict doesn't become a battle, it becomes a conversation. Insecurity doesn't become sabotage, it becomes self-awareness. Love stops being a roller coaster and starts being a rhythm, one where both people are secure in themselves and secure in each other. So the next time you wonder how to attract the right man, don't ask what he wants. Ask if you're showing up for yourself. Ask if you're grounded in your truth, your values, your boundaries. Ask if you're building your life around your passions and not his attention. Because when you live from that place of internal alignment, your love life aligns with it too. You don't attract perfection, but you do attract connection, the kind rooted in respect, mutual growth, and real compatibility. And here's the best part. Being emotionally secure isn't about having it all figured out. It's about being willing to look inward. It's about healing your wounds, not hiding them. It's about choosing peace over patterns. And when you commit to that level of self-love, the world starts to respond differently to you, including the people in it. The men who once ghosted you, they no longer have access. The situationships that left you confused, you now have clarity. The energy that once left you drained, it can't even reach you because you've elevated, you've evolved. You've become the woman who doesn't beg, doesn't chase, doesn't settle. You've become the woman who attracts, not with games, but with grace, not with fear, but with fire. And that woman, she doesn't just attract any man. She attracts the right man, the one who values emotional security, the one who sees her clearly, the one who doesn't need to be chased because he's already walking toward her. So be her. Be the woman who knows she is already enough. Be the woman who doesn't need to be louder to be heard. Be the woman who leads with softness and strength. Be the woman who loves herself so deeply that love from others is just the overflow. Because when you become emotionally secure, you don't just change your relationship status, you change your entire life. One of the most profound qualities that emotionally secure women embody is their ability to set boundaries without building walls. This is the difference between protection and isolation, between self-respect and fear. And this distinction is essential because what makes her magnetic isn't that she never gets hurt, it's that she knows how to protect her peace without shutting love out. Boundaries are not ultimatums, and they're not cold defenses to keep people away. They are beautiful acts of self-love. Quiet declarations that say, this is what I will accept, and this is what I won't. And when a woman lives by this truth, she stops allowing love to hurt her in the same way over and over again. See, emotionally secure women are not playing hard to get. They're simply not easy to fool. They don't pretend to be unavailable to manipulate a man into chasing them. They are genuinely selective because they know the quality of their life depends on who they allow into it. A secure woman can let a man in, but not at the expense of herself. She can say yes to love while still saying no to behaviors that don't align with her value. That's what makes her presence so powerful. She doesn't have to demand respect. Her energy commands it. Now here's where the power really lies. Emotionally secure women are not afraid of a man walking away. That's the secret. When you're not terrified of losing someone, you show up differently. You speak more truthfully. You're not tiptoeing around trying to say the perfect thing or give just enough so he stays. You're honest, you're brave, you're real. And that's intoxicating because when a woman knows she's not afraid of solitude, she doesn't bend her boundaries to avoid it. That's the kind of energy that emotionally available men are drawn to because deep down they want a partner, not a puppet. They don't want to feel needed in order to feel important. They want to feel chosen without obligation. When a man sees a woman who can say, this doesn't work for me without rage or drama, he realizes he's in the presence of someone who knows her value. That's the woman who doesn't threaten to leave in order to gain control. She simply walks away when respect leaves the room. She doesn't manipulate with silence. She communicates with clarity. And here's the thing, boundaries aren't just about saying no. They're also about saying yes to the right things. An emotionally secure woman is generous. She gives love freely, but not blindly. She loves deeply, but not at the cost of her own self-worth. She listens with empathy, but she doesn't absorb someone else's chaos as her responsibility to fix. This balance is incredibly rare. Most people either shut down completely or overextend themselves, trying to prove their worth. But a secure woman stands in the middle, open but protected, kind but firm, giving but grounded. She doesn't allow herself to be guilted into staying in situations that don't nourish her. She doesn't accept breadcrumbs just because she's afraid there might not be a full meal out there. She waits not passively but powerfully for someone who meets her where she is, not someone who drains her, doubts her, or demands she be smaller to fit into their world. Because she knows that boundaries don't push love away, they filter out what's not love in the first place. And this is what makes the right man lean in. He realizes this isn't a woman who's here to play the role of the rescuer, the overgiver, or the emotional babysitter. She's not here to be impressed by bare minimum effort. She's not excited by mystery or inconsistency. She doesn't romanticize hot and cold behavior. She sees it for what it is: confusion, immaturity, avoidance. And because she has a healthy relationship with herself, she doesn't confuse chemistry with compatibility. She doesn't chase connection that leaves her doubting her worth. This woman is steady. And not because life hasn't shaken her, but because she's done the inner work to ground herself. She sat with her fears, healed her old wounds, and unlearned the belief that she has to earn love through suffering. That's why her boundaries are not brittle. They're strong, flexible, and rooted in self-awareness. She can bend without breaking because her center is secure. She's not reactive, she's responsive. She doesn't scream, "I deserve better." She quietly lives like she does. That kind of energy can't be faked, and it cannot be manipulated. The men who once thrived on attention, on playing games to feel powerful, They don't know what to do with her because she doesn't engage with that dynamic. She doesn't chase. She doesn't compete. And she certainly doesn't shrink to keep someone comfortable. She shines fully. But let's talk about what this looks like in real life. It looks like her saying, I don't feel respected when you cancel last minute, instead of pretending it doesn't bother her. It looks like her choosing to go home when someone crosses a line, instead of making excuses for them. It looks like her cutting off communication when a man plays mind games, not to get a reaction, but because she values her mental peace. And it looks like her walking away, not angrily, but gracefully, when she sees that someone isn't ready for the kind of relationship she's offering. Does it hurt? Sometimes. She's not immune to pain. She just doesn't let pain override her principles. She knows that short-term heartbreak is easier than long-term self-betrayal. She knows that saying no to the wrong connection makes space for the right one. And she knows that boundaries are not walls to keep love out, but gates to let the right love in. This woman doesn't confuse silence with strength. She communicates. She's not afraid to say what she needs. She doesn't wait for someone to read her mind or guess her worth. She lays it out with elegance. This is who I am. This is how I love. And this is how I expect to be loved in return. And when that is too much for someone, she lets them go. Because her peace is not up for negotiation. The irony, the more she owns this, the more magnetic she becomes, not because she's performing, but because her energy radiates self-respect. And that kind of energy is what emotionally healthy men crave. They're not looking for perfection, they're looking for truth, for a partner who can hold herself accountable, who can hold space for both people's emotions, who can bring warmth without burning out. And that's what emotional security produces, a woman who is not perfect, but real. And being real is rare. How many people are playing roles, trying to be the cool girl who doesn't care, or the ride or die who sacrifices everything, or the fixer who saves the relationship. But a secure woman has no role to play. She just is. And in a world where so many are disconnected from themselves, that authenticity shines like a beacon. She may not be the loudest in the room. She may not post every thought or share every emotion. But when you're with her, you feel her presence. You feel her groundedness. You feel her integrity. And the right man, he feels safe. Not safe from conflict, but safe to be himself. Safe to grow. Safe to trust. Because when someone honors their own boundaries, they naturally honor yours too. The emotionally secure woman understands the difference between attention and intention. This might sound simple on the surface, but it's where most people get stuck in modern dating, in a world of constant notifications, likes, and shallow interactions. Being noticed has never been easier. But being truly valued, truly seen, deeply chosen, that's different. And a secure woman knows this. She doesn't let attention confuse her into thinking it's something more than it is. It doesn't confuse a man's ability to send a text with his capacity to love her with depth. She doesn't let flattery blur her intuition. She sees through the noise. When a man comes into her life with grand gestures but no consistency, she doesn't melt. She watches. She listens. She gives it time. Why? Because she's not hungry for surface level connection. She's not desperate to be picked. She's discerning. She knows the difference between a spark and a flame. Anyone can light a match, but she's looking for someone who will build a fire and tend to it. And because of that, she doesn't mistake intensity for intimacy. That's the trap so many people fall into. They get swept away in the heat of the moment, only to realize later that there was no foundation, no depth, no actual plan to grow together. But the emotionally secure woman, she doesn't chase the high. She seeks alignment. This doesn't mean she's cold or unfeeling. On the contrary, She feels everything deeply. But she's mastered the art of responding, not reacting. So when someone shows up with charm but no follow through, she doesn't overanalyze or internalize. She observes, then acts accordingly. She doesn't wait around hoping someone will become who she needs them to be. She meets people where they are, and if where they are doesn't match where she's headed, she gracefully lets go. This is the power of emotional security. It gives her the ability to see red flags as facts, not projects. She doesn't need to fix, rescue, or change someone to validate her worth. She doesn't need to win over the emotionally unavailable man to prove she's lovable. She knows she is already. She's not chasing validation. She's seeking connection, and only connection that's mutual, honest, and rooted in emotional maturity. That clarity alone eliminates so many of the wrong connections before they even begin. You see, emotionally secure women don't romanticize potential. That's another defining trait. They're not in love with who someone could be one day. They fall in love with who someone is today. How he shows up, how he communicates, how he makes her feel. Not when things are easy, but when they're challenging. Because anyone can be a fair weather lover. It's easy to show up when everything's light, fun, and exciting. But when life gets real, when conflict shows up, when communication is tested, that's when emotional security becomes the game changer. A secure woman doesn't shy away from these moments. She doesn't fear confrontation. She embraces it, not as drama, but as opportunity. She knows that healthy love doesn't mean avoiding hard conversations. It means being able to have them and still feel safe. And because she's emotionally grounded, she doesn't escalate. She communicates, she expresses, she listens. She doesn't attack, she invites clarity. And that's incredibly rare. Most people, when triggered, either shut down or explode. But the emotionally secure woman has cultivated enough self-awareness to pause, to reflect, and to respond in a way that strengthens the connection rather than weakens it. This is what makes her so powerful in relationships. She doesn't run from hard moments. She uses them to go deeper. And that depth is exactly what separates temporary attraction from lasting connection. Now, let's talk about how this plays out when men meet her. At first, some men might be thrown off, not because she's doing anything wrong, but because they're used to women who accommodate everything, who bend, who over-explain, who ignore their needs just to keep the peace. But the secure woman, she brings peace, but not by betraying herself. She's kind, yes, but she's also honest. She will look a man in the eye and say, "This isn't enough for me," and mean it. Not with anger, not with manipulation, but with quiet conviction. And that kind of clarity is disarming. And men aren't ready for it. And that's okay. She doesn't take it personally. She lets them go with love. Because she's not afraid of letting go. She's more afraid of letting herself down by staying in something that's not true. She doesn't measure her worth by someone's ability to choose her. She measures it by her ability to choose herself, even when it's hard. This is why the emotionally secure woman doesn't settle, not because she's picky, not because she thinks she's better than anyone, but because she knows what it feels like to betray herself, and she's promised never to do it again. She's worked too hard to heal. She spent nights crying over people who didn't see her, days questioning her worth, months untangling herself from relationships that looked good on the outside, but felt hollow on the inside. She's done that work. She's learned those lessons. And now she lives by them. So when a man says one thing but does another, she doesn't spiral. She notices. She makes mental notes. She doesn't overgive, hoping he'll match her energy. She simply adjusts her investment to match his. Not out of pettiness, but out of wisdom. She knows love can't grow where there's inconsistency, confusion, or chaos. So she stops feeding what doesn't feed her. That's emotional self-care. That's emotional intelligence. And here's the paradox. The more she embodies this self-worth, the more she attracts partners who reflect it. Emotionally available men are not intimidated by a woman who values herself. They're inspired by her. Because emotionally healthy men aren't looking for someone to complete them. They're looking for someone to complement them. Someone who has her own center, her own joy, her own life. Someone who's not needy, but open. Someone who can receive love without losing herself in it. And he left her. This is what makes emotionally secure women so deeply attractive. They're not just beautiful in the traditional sense. They're magnetic because of the energy they carry. They have a presence that says, I'm whole already, but I'd love to grow with someone who honors that wholeness. They're not waiting for someone to come save them. They're inviting someone to join them. And that's the difference between dependency and partnership. Let's be real. There are so many people out there looking for love to heal them, to fix them, to validate them. But love isn't therapy. Love isn't a cure. It's an amplification of who you already are. And when you're emotionally secure, you don't place the burden of your healing on someone else's shoulders. You own your stuff. You bring self-awareness to the table. You take responsibility for your patterns, and that ownership creates an emotional environment where real love can actually thrive. Emotionally secure women attract the right men because they create space for the right kind of love. The kind that's safe, passionate, honest, and expansive. Not the kind that burns fast and fades, but the kind that builds slowly, intentionally, with both people showing up fully. That's not boring. That's rare. And rare is what you want, because rare lasts. The truth is, emotional security is the sexiest thing in the world. It doesn't look like perfection. It looks like presence. It looks like someone who knows who they are and is unapologetic about it. Someone who can say, I love you without fear. Someone who can say, this doesn't feel right without guilt. Someone who can say, I need time without playing games. That's what security sounds like. And once you've experienced that, once you've become that, it's almost impossible to accept anything less. You stop begging for breadcrumbs. You stop tolerating confusion. You stop entertaining people who aren't clear about you. Because when you're clear within yourself, you require clarity from others. And that's how you protect your peace. That's how you protect your heart. That's how you build relationships that are not only passionate, but also peaceful. So if you're wondering how emotionally secure women attract the right men, it's because they've become the kind of person who creates space for the right love. They've stopped chasing potential and started honoring patterns. They've stopped trying to be liked and started being themselves. They've stopped settling for attention and started demanding intention. And in doing so, they've raised the bar, not just for others, but for themselves. Because here's the final truth. The love you attract is often a reflection of the love you give yourself. And when you give yourself the love that's patient, kind, firm, and true, you teach others how to love you the same way. Not by force, not by rules, not by tests, but by example. And that's the kind of love that changes everything. An emotionally secure woman doesn't just know her worth. She lives it. She's not in a constant performance, trying to impress or prove herself. She's not operating from fear that someone might leave. She's not anxiously managing a man's perception of her, trying to be just right so she won't be abandoned. Instead, she's rooted in the belief that if she shows up fully as herself, messy, real, flawed, and authentic, The right man will stay. The wrong one will leave. And either outcome is okay, because her self-worth isn't on the line. Her value isn't tied to someone else's ability to love her correctly. That's what changes everything. In a world where people are conditioned to seek external validation, to be chosen, to be liked, to be adored, she's learned that